At 3 a.m., my sibling quietly took my debit card from me as I slept. By dawn, $11,000 had vanished, spent on a premium flight to Japan and lavish presents with our relative. 7 days later, she came back with father insisting, quit acting, she'd never take your funds. I merely grinned since the card she grabbed. I stirred to the soft azure light from my mobile display illuminating the bedside table. Initially, I assumed it was merely more junk alerts, but the vibrations persisted. Still groggy, I extended my arm, peering at the rush of alerts from my banking application. 10, 11, 12 purchases, all from 3:07 to 3:28 a.m. At first, my mind couldn't grasp it. For $1,200 at an air carrier, $2,800 at a fancy shop in Tokyo, $3,100 at an upscale jewelry outlet, plus a few lesser amounts. If you consider $600 minor at souvenir stores and eateries I'd never encountered. My gut twisted. I bolted upright, the chilling awareness spreading through me like frozen liquid. I snatched my purse from the cabinet compartment vacant. My debit card space was empty. I didn't share space with outsiders. I resided with kin. My junior sister, Clara, had been lodging with me for a few weeks that had oddly extended into 2 months. Allegedly, she was jobless and required a spot to stay. I'd been handling food, bills, even her ride shares since buses overwhelmed her. And now my card was absent. I staggered along the corridor, pulse racing so intensely it seemed to rattle my chest. Her entrance was shut, the subtle buzz of her device adapted to the sole noise. I rapped once, twice, no response. Nudged the door ajar sufficiently to glance within. Unoccupied mattress, no Clara. I inspected the cooking area shadowy, the washroom deserted, the main entrance marginally open. By sunrise, I had my solution. Clara's social media update, marked 4:02 a.m. her, beaming at the terminal with our kin page, both clutching travel documents. The note said, top tier to Tokyo, darling. When existence is brief, render it opulent. My teeth gritted so firmly it ached. By midday, my financial institution verified the expenses summed to slightly above $11,000. I blocked the card, submitted the scam complaint, but throughout, a profounder fury brewed. Not solely at Clara, but at the certainty of how this would unfold upon her return. And I was correct. 7 days on, she sauntered via my entryway as if she'd merely escaped for a brief vacation, hauling 2 enormous high-end luggage cases after her. Paige wasn't accompanying, evidently still enjoying in Kyoto. Clara reeked of costly scent and tax-free bubbly. Before I could utter a word, father, who'd arrived to collect her, advanced, casting that let-down guardian gaze. Cease feigning, he stated bluntly. She'd never access your funds. You've perpetually been suspicious regarding her. I refrained from debating. I simply beamed since the card she grabbed. To truly comprehend why my sibling snatching my debit card amid the darkness wasn't merely a singular error, you must grasp the background. Clara has been the household's protected darling from her birth. I'm not overstating. If she desired an item, she obtained it, regardless of how imprudent or egocentric. And if anybody challenged her, abruptly she'd transform into the delicate being who couldn't endure criticism. Meanwhile, I was the appointed dependable one. The one who earned solid marks without prompting, who secured employment at 16 to cover my own mobile costs, who avoided issues because I recognized the issues would fall directly on me. Father preferred to label me reliable, which appears pleasant until you understand it was merely shorthand for we can extract from you. Without concern, you'll object. By age 23, I was employed in a secure IT position and possessed my own dual-bedroom flat. Clara was 21 and already pursuing her third vocation. She'd completed half a year of local college prior to pausing to discover herself. Then attempted beauty training before concluding aesthetics was too superficial. Then left a diner role because leadership didn't align with her aura. Guess who funded her housing when she was unemployed? Guess who stocked her cooler when she claimed her salary was postponed? Guess who endorsed her recent debit card since the lender was unjust about her record? Yes, me. And here's the irony, none of it ever registered as kindness in her view. It was just what relatives do, which, amusingly, only appeared to pertain when she required assistance. 2 months prior to the Tokyo escapade, Clara phoned me weeping at midnight. She'd argued with her housemate and needed a location to rest, merely for a few evenings. I agreed I possessed an extra space, and despite all the warnings I'd learned to disregard, I convinced myself it would be short-term. Evening 1 became evening 5, then 14 days. Then she began calling my flat our space. The initial occasion I observed her access my cooler and consume the final portion of my almond milk without inquiry. I realized I'd erred. But the genuine alert arose when I spotted parcels arriving under her name, pricey ones, premium cosmetics lines, luxury footwear, items I knew she couldn't finance. When I inquired how she was funding it, she chuckled. "Oh, relax, I've managed it." Meaning she was accumulating debt on some fresh card or creating a balance she'd subsequently anticipate another, likely me, to resolve. Advanced to the evening before she took my card. We'd scarcely conversed all day as I was laboring late on a task. Around midnight, I finally closed my computer and retired. She remained alert, lounged on the sofa browsing social media with Paige on video call. Paige, our relative, is Clara's accomplice in mischief. She's similar, accustomed to ease, anticipating aid, and evading accountability. Combine them, and you receive an ideal tempest of poor choices. I overheard sufficient of their dialogue to recognize they were discussing escaping and indulging, but I assumed it was merely their typical dream chatter. Clara possessed under $100 in her possession. She couldn't even settle her mobile bill last month without loaning from me. At 3 a.m., while I slumbered in my chamber, she entered, extracted my purse from my workstation, and seized my debit card as if it were a pencil she required temporarily. Surveillance video from the building passage subsequently displayed her sneaking out with her baggage, encountering Paige below, and proceeding directly to the car service that transported them to the airfield. When Father instructed me to cease feigning she'd ever access my funds, it wasn't merely unawareness. It was the identical routine I'd endured for years. When Clara wrecked Father's vehicle at 19 while messaging and operating, he informed her she was fortunate to survive and purchased her a fresher one since the prior had negative associations. When she squandered $4,000 of her reserves on a week in Miami, he remarked, "You can't assign a cost to life adventures." When she forfeited a store position for missing 3 turns, he escorted her for a meal to uplift her. But me, when I once exceeded my balance by $40 in university because my salary deposited late, Father delivered a 20-minute speech on monetary restraint and maturity. So when I positioned there, Father glaring at me and Clara smirking slightly behind him, I recognized there was no value in disputing. No value in clarifying that I possessed the financial records, the timings, the social media entries. He wouldn't listen. To him, Clara wasn't merely blameless, she was unable to be culpable. And I was the distrustful elder kin who needed to master releasing matters, but here's the element no one in my household knew. That debit card she seized wasn't merely any card. It was a corporate card linked straight to my IT advisory side venture, the one I'd been discreetly developing for 2 years. And it possessed protection protocols Clara couldn't conceivably fathom. The instant she used it for the premium tickets, I received a notification. Not solely from the lender, from my personal monitoring setup. And each individual purchase she executed afterward, recorded, location marked, and stored with vendor information that would bewilder her. In essence, I already possessed all I required, and I wasn't merely going to recover my funds. I was going to ensure this was the final occasion she, or anyone in my household, ever attempted anything similar again. 7 days after Clara glided back from Japan, the environment in my flat was toxic. She didn't express regret. She didn't clarify. She merely behaved as if she'd been on a swift holiday rather than a dual nation, top-tier journey financed by unapproved expenses. Father still wouldn't release it. He visited every alternate day to monitor her, which truly meant to scowl at me as if I was the antagonist for being distant to my unfortunate sibling. That Friday, I resolved I was finished. Finished with portraying the individual in the household who could perpetually be depended on for monetary support. Finished with suppressing my words while Clara and Paige drifted through existence on others' funds. Finished with Father's unwavering loyalty to his youngest child. So I arranged the scene. I informed Clara I'd request delivery for everyone. Her preferred sushi, the exorbitant variety that makes you wonder if it's lawful to demand that much for uncooked seafood. Informed her father should attend as well, since we needed to resolve the tension. They both arrived precisely on schedule. Clara in a satin gown and $900 luxury house shoes. The precise ones she'd acquired in Ginza, Tokyo. Father in his standard pants and shirt. That critical scowl already prepared and set. We positioned around my eating surface delivery boxes emitting warmth in the center. I permitted them to eat for several minutes before reclining in my seat and stating, So, regarding the $11,000 you expended on my corporate card. Clara rotated her eyes so intensely I thought they might detach. Oh goodness, you're still fixated on that? I informed you I didn't access your funds. Cease fabricating tailies. Father intervened instantly. Sufficient, Alex. We're not going to indulge this absurdity again. I grinned. Fine. We're not going to indulge it. We're going to verify it. From beneath the surface, I retrieved my computer. I'd already prepared the summary from my card's monitoring setup. Every acquisition she executed, with seller titles, timings, and security camera captures from suppliers who were eager to provide them when I described it, was component of a probe into unapproved dealings. The initial picture appeared on the display. Clara and Paige at Lax Premium Lounge, sparkling wine glasses in grasp, travel documents plainly evident. Time, 3:58 a.m. Father halted mid-morsel. Clara's eating utensils dropped onto the surface. Click, subsequent image. Clara using my card at Hainda Airfield's tax-free outlet, limbs burdened with upscale sacks. Time, 5:12 p.m. Japan time. Click, another. Her purchasing those precise $900 house shoes she was presently donning. You desire me to continue? I inquired. My tone composed but audible enough to cause Clara to recoil. Father began to talk, but I interrupted him. No, you've been instructing me to cease feigning all week, so let's reveal everything. I didn't merely block the card. I submitted an official demand for unapproved expenses, which signifies the lender has already undone the expenses, and the authorities possess a duplicate of this summary. Clara's complexion paled. You contacted the law, you executed purchases without my approval, I stated plainly. On a corporate profile, which incidentally involves grave lawful repercussions, you executed purchases without approval and risked my profession. Father struck his palm on the surface. Alex, this is kin. We don't involve the authorities over kin disagreements. I chuckled, harsh and resentful. Kin? You imply the identical kin that has spent years imposing a perpetual monetary and sentimental load on me while protecting her every blunder. The identical kin that instructed me to cease feigning rather than trusting me when I had proof in my possession. Clara's tone broke, the artificial assurance finally fading. I can reimburse you. I inclined a head. No, you can't. Because you lack $11,000, and you won't. Which is why you're going to gather your belongings tonight and depart my flat. And you, Father, I pivoted to him, meeting gazes, are not permitted here until you can confess what she did and express regret for aligning against me. Father's mouth stiffened. You're committing an error. She's your sibling. No, I stated, rising, my tone elevating for the initial time. She's a mature person who has been permitted to depend on others rather than handling her own duties because you've never compelled her to confront outcomes. Well, felicitations, she's about to. I pushed a packet across the surface. Within, a reproduced duplicate of the authorities' summary, the formal incident identifier from the lender's probe, and a catalog of every dealing she executed. If you believe I'm deceiving, feel free to contact the investigator whose contact is at the base. He's anticipating your communication. Clara's limbs trembled as she pushed away from the surface. You're destroying my existence. I moved aside, indicating toward the entrance. No, Clara. I'm merely ensuring you don't meddle in my existence again. She rushed into the additional chamber to commence gathering. Father remained positioned for an instant, gazing at the packet as if it might detonate. Then he rose, whispered something about me being unfeeling, and trailed her. As the entrance closed forcefully behind them, I sensed something I hadn't in years. Complete, unwavering command over my own existence. And I recognized, without question, this was merely the commencement. For the initial 24 hours after I expelled Clara and Father, my mobile didn't cease oscillating. Clara began with messages. You're exaggerating. You've always envied me. You'll lament this. When that failed, she progressed to audio recordings, half sobbing, half yelling. You've turned the entire household against me. Father's so distressed he hasn't consumed all day. Good. Let him encounter for once what it's like when another isn't supplying everything for him. By the following dawn, Father himself was dialing. I disregarded him. Then arrived the remorse inducements via Mother, who I hadn't even encountered in weeks. Can't you simply withdraw the accusations? It's ripping us apart. She's your sole sibling. You two should be aiding each other, aiding her. I'd been doing that since we were adolescents. The only thing Clara had ever aided was her own poor routines. 2 days on, the actual outcomes commenced. Investigator Harris from the unit managing monetary matters phoned to verify they'd officially reached Clara. She had two choices. repay the complete sum and endorse an acknowledgement of fault or confront accusations. When I learned that, I anticipated a new surge of pleading from her. Instead, I received quiet, which was nearly worse. It signified she was hurrying. Certainly, Paige dialed me the subsequent morning. Paige never dialed me unless she desired something. Alex she initiated, attempting that phony, amicable manner. Clara's panicking. If she falls for this, she'll never secure employment again. I allowed her to speak for a full minute before interjecting. Perhaps she should have considered that before performing that activity without approval. Oh, and Paige, if I were you, I'd remove that Tokyo image collection before the authorities begin questioning how you funded your ticket. The connection ended. That afternoon, Mother appeared at my entrance without notice. She didn't rap, just entered as if she still possessed that privilege. Her initial words weren't greetings, or can we converse? They're residing at a lodge, she stated. It's dreadful, you've shamed your sibling. I just rested on the ledge, observing her as if I'd never viewed her previously. Shamed? No, Mother, I elucidated the realities, that's all. You could have managed it discreetly, she stated. Voice quivering with that rehearsed blend of embarrassment and letdown. Household issues shouldn't be open. They're only open. I retorted. Because Clara executed $11,000 worth of recorded purchases without authorization. She desired top-tier handling. Now she's receiving it. Mother's expression hardened. Your father believes you've exceeded limits. I grinned. Your father isn't permitted here until he confesses he was mistaken. And if he persists in contacting the investigator to resolve this, he's going to discover himself clarifying why he was protecting actions under lawful scrutiny. That halted her from proceeding. Within 7 days, the family fractured into two factions. On one side stood Dad, Mom, and the pair of cousins who'd always clung to Clara's side. They branded me as the heartless, ungrateful elder sibling who betrayed his own sister. On the other side were my aunt, uncle, and a few relatives who'd silently observed this pattern for years. They reached out discreetly, expressing pride in me for finally standing my ground. Uncle Rob even confessed, "We all saw Clara was spiraling, but nobody wanted to be the one to call it out." The real twist came 2 weeks later. Clara appeared at my building, not to express regret, but to bargain. She wore plain jeans and a hoodie, no trace of luxury brands. She seemed diminished. "They'll drop the case if I repay you in 6 months," she said, avoiding my gaze. "But you need to tell them you're fine with it." I didn't even pause. "Send the payments through my attorney. I'm not speaking on your behalf and I'm not softening anything. Do it officially or face the consequences." Her jaw clenched, eyes glistening. "You're really done with me, aren't you?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. "Clara, I was done the moment you took my card. This is just formalities." She left without another word. 3 months later, the matter was settled. She'd scrounged up the funds through who knows what means, signed the confession, and the fraud was permanently on her record. She hasn't met my eyes since. And my life, it's quieter, calmer, wealthier. Not just in money, but in ways I didn't realize I'd been craving. No more unexpected knocks. No more loans that never get repaid. No more navigating someone else's entitlement in my own home. For the first time in years, I'm the sole controller of my finances, my space, and my peace. It's been 6 months since I slid that police report across the table. Clara hasn't stepped foot in my apartment since. Dad still sends occasional passive-aggressive messages. "Hope you're pleased with yourself." But the truth is, I am. For the first time, I'm not in constant crisis mode. I'm not bracing for the next emergency only I can fix. I'm not budgeting around someone else's recklessness. And most crucially, I no longer feel guilty for prioritizing myself. Looking back, it's almost comical how long I let that cycle persist. Years of convincing myself it was just this one time. That it was simpler to cover the cost than spark a conflict. That family supports family, even when family places a relentless financial burden on you. But here's the truth they don't want you to see. If you don't establish boundaries, they'll keep shifting the line until you're a stranger to yourself. They don't stop because you've been generous. They stop because you've made it impossible for them to keep taking. And the moment you draw that line, they'll call you selfish, because you've cut off their access. A couple of weeks ago, I crossed paths with Paige at the store. She froze like she'd seen a specter. I smiled, said hi, and kept moving. She probably expected me to ask about Clara to show some lingering interest. I didn't, because I genuinely don't care. Clara's record now bars her from certain jobs, which she likely calls unjust. She still posts online, but it's not premium lounges anymore. It's second-hand store finds and budget wine evenings. Her captions are filled with fresh start quotes. But I know the reality. This isn't transformation. It's consequences finally catching up. I don't take pleasure in her struggles, but I also don't bear their weight. Actions have outcomes. And for once, they landed where they belonged. A few days ago, I was on my couch, feet propped up, laptop open to a new major client deal. My phone pinged. An email from the bank confirming a $7,800 deposit, Clara's final payment. I stared at that figure for a moment, then laughed. Not because I needed the funds. I'm thriving more than ever. But because it felt like the last nail in a coffin I'd been constructing for years. Not for Clara, for the old version of me. The one who bent over backward to keep the peace. Who mistook enabling for love. Who thought saying no was betraying family. Who believed my value was tied to how much I could give before breaking. That person is gone. The new me. I keep my doors secured, my bank alerts active, and my boundaries firm. I live in a space that's mine in every sense. Financially, emotionally, physically. I've stopped justifying my decisions to people who are only upset because they can't profit from me anymore. And if Dad, Clara, or anyone else from that side of the family tries to test those boundaries again, I won't need proof or a police report to shut it down. One word will suffice. No, because I've learned the most liberating truth. I am not their safety net. I am not their fallback plan. I am not their last resort. I will never be their ATM again.